Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. I've been having fun with the Before the Shadow mini expansion coming out because, of course, my handle over here on Twitch is B414 and so on. So I've been having a little fun with that. But I think I'll go ahead and maybe switch on over to the game. There we go. So, yes, hello, welcome to Plugging Along. Last time on Plugging Along, we worked through some usability issues I saw while using the Festival Buddy plugin during Farmers Faire. Today, I'd like to keep working through that list, using our debug capabilities to simulate the festival being active, because of course, as we can see, it is not. We're here in Bywater, and it is much calmer than it was just a week ago. So that way we can work through these last few issues and set ourselves up for success for the next festival, which, as Little Red had mentioned, I think is probably going to be Harvest Math. I'll have to double check that. Anyway, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let's get going. All right. Okay, so when we left off last time, we were trying to develop kind of in concert two interesting features, or at least interesting for me. And that is, oftentimes during a festival, I don't actually have the Festival Buddy window open, especially during the Farmers Faire. There's a bunch of quests that I don't bother to have it open for, and then just a few that I really want the window open for. And so the first thing was an auto-open feature. That is to say, for this quest, if this quest is accepted, then pop the Festival Buddy open. For instance, the Fat Mayor quest I find very useful to have the window auto open. And so if I were to, let's see, go ahead and clear that quest. If I were to pretend using our plugin testing features that I was accepting that quest, except what I would like to have happen is that the window opens up. It does know, if I type in /festival, we can see it did reselect the quest, so that's the one that it thinks is active, but it didn't open the window. And so that was one thing I wanted. And the other one is, sometimes you can multitask, especially in the Farmers Faire Festival here in Bywater, where you could be doing the Bounder rounds, for instance, and chiding those two drunk hobbits, and you can also be doing your market lists and whatnot. And so the other half of this is, sometimes I want the chat monitoring to be active, even if Festival Buddy window has moved on to a different quest. So check the background here and then switch over to, say, a vendor list or something else. And I want Fat Mayor to still be popping up, or Bounder rounds to still be popping up those chat monitoring. And so that's a couple of things that I want to work on today. What else do we have? Well, we have a to-do file that's kind of tracking what we're going and doing. Oh, we have someone in chat who is going to read the LOTRO books for the first time. That's awesome. Have you already seen, for instance, the Peter Jackson movies? I find them kind of like the cliff notes of the books, and it definitely makes revisiting the books when I come back and read them kind of easier to piece together. Okay, like this stuff's in the movie. Okay, I need to pay attention to this stuff. It's not in the movie, and so it's different. And here's where I need to spend my time reading. And okay, I'm familiar with this, and that goes a little bit faster. Anyway, it's cool that you're getting to read the books for the first time. Excellent. That'll help you definitely for the Lord of the Rings Online game, less so for the upcoming Rings of Power that people are also being excited about in chat. Okay, so in our to-do file, so a thing that I noticed was that Festival Buddy knows or can know about your alts, your other characters. Now, I haven't logged on one of the other characters at the moment. Actually, maybe that would be useful. Let me go ahead and simulate having done that. So if we come into our documents, I saved off my plugin data state. Let's go ahead and restore just the one I care about, not all of my testing stuff. So we've gone ahead and unloaded, so I'm deleting the plugin data. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy that on back. Great. Okay, so come back into Festival Buddy, Festival, and click on Alts. Excellent. And now you're able to click through to other characters and see the relevant items. Specifically, I would suspect we are seeing any of the currency items. Excellent. Let's see, if I change to a different, say, harvest math, awesome. It's also going to show you the cooldown state of your, for instance, in harvest math, there are various quests that are tied to a timer. Bobbing for apples, the treasure, the gem box in Thorn's Hall, and that kind of thing. Geode hunting, sorry. And so, I wonder what that refresh is for. So you can, using the Festival Buddy, track your quest progress or cooldown time on each of your alts as well. You don't need to make a reminder for any of that. Corjetta says, they love the LOTRO movies and want to read the books to gain a deeper understanding of the lore. Absolutely. And your favorite streamer loves Lord of the Rings. Nice. What I would say is that if you feel like at any point you're getting bogged down, don't worry about it too. Just kind of make a note of, I want to come back to this, and keep going. Like, don't. If you're struggling on a section, just keep going, because you've seen the movies. You're going to kind of get back into that groove of what's going on, and then you can just come back to your bookmark, maybe write down the page later, and be like, oh, that's what's going on, or now I can come at this with different viewpoint. So that's what I would say is sometimes stuff happens in the book that's very different from the movies, or wasn't in the movies at all, like the Old Forest and Encountering Tom Bombadil and the Barrow Downs and all that, just hand waved in the movies, and so it can be a bit of a challenge to come at that fresh. Now, if you've played Lord of the Rings Online and done those epics that are paralleling through the book, then you're gonna already be a leg up on all that. Okay. So yes, we have a view of alt, but one of the things I noticed was that the alt window does not respond to the escape key, nor does it respond to the F12 key. And so that would be neat to go ahead and fix. It should be a pretty simple fix. And these are good because most players are using that escape key to close their plugin windows. And most characters who are using the F12 key want to take a screenshot of something, and they don't necessarily want to have to close their plugin windows to take a pretty screenshot. Okay, so what else? Oh, making the alert window movable. I thought that would be interesting because right now, let's come on back to the Farmers Faire and go ahead and simulate getting a request from the mayor. So if the mayor asks for butter, right now we get a pop-up right here, which is oftentimes underneath the text of whatever is happening, like you've turned in a quest, you've gotten an item, whatnot. And so I think it'd be very neat if you could hit your control / or other unlock UI key sequence and go ahead and be able to move this alert window. Right now, I believe it is just fixed in place. And we can fix that pretty easily by including the drag bars UI. In fact, I think the drag bars UI is already in here. For instance, if we come up with, Okay, the drag bars library may not be in here, and if it's not, it'd be a good addition. What else is on my mind? Well, that's the wrong window for one thing. Okay, and here's the Pinia quest and the automatically open the UI items that we were working on last time. And that's pretty much it. Those four things, some combination of them, are what I want to focus on today. Okay, so we have added these checkboxes, but what we haven't done is tie them to actually tie them to the save file. Now it's because hello Jen again in chat. Welcome back. It is always neat to be able to connect chat names to people I've actually met in the real world, this time in Cologne. Okay, so we did place some items into the save file last time. So for instance, if I go ahead and pretend like I've accepted a market list, and accept that, we can see the window automatically opened, which is exactly what I want. Except, of course, we can see the auto-open checkbox is not checked. And so what do we need for that? Let's start taking some notes as we kind of muse our way through the design here. Okay, let me move these two on down. Okay, so auto-open checkbox state needs to save to options, or to the settings. When changing quests in the dropdown, the state needs to be loaded for the new quest, or if no quest, then clear the checkbox. And that's what happens if we go ahead and mark a market list as complete. We can see this box clears, and all of the UI here clears as well. So I would say these boxes should either be, the state should be cleared, or maybe just hidden altogether, so it's a little bit emptier. Not sure about that. Then clear / hide the checkbox. Okay. And then we're already paying attention to that setting because we're just demonstrated, accepted the quest, the window automatically showed itself. Neat. So we can go ahead and do that. Pay attention to setting when accepting a quest. And that one is done. So we can, imagine a line struck through that to-do item. Okay. I think that's going to be enough for that. It's going to be very similar for the background checkbox as well. For saving the state, loading the state, and whatnot. So we might end up doing both of them at the same time, just as we have so far, kind of doing them in parallel. Okay. So now that we have a rough idea of what we need to do, let's kind of refresh our memory of where we left off last time in the code. In fact, I'm going to come in here and say to-do file addition changes and just commit that. Okay, so remember that we had refactored some code here in commands. Commands was busy doing a bunch of things to make the windows visible or not visible. This is the handler for the /festival command. In fact, if we come on in here into commands, there we go. So this is the /festival command, and we can see what used to be a whole bunch of code has been refactored, has been moved from here into, I'm going to assume, main win, which is what we're talking about here. In fact, I'll go ahead and remove that extra new line. So if the current window is hidden, if the current window is visible, do all this stuff. So we're looking for a corresponding set main win visible function in main win. All right, set main win visible. Excellent. We're going to go ahead and stage that and probably go ahead and commit that just by itself. What are we looking for here? If visible is false, we have 4 things to do. Awesome. Visible 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. We also have these 4 things to do if it's true. We're doing less here. Because we're using the close helper window's helper function. Excellent. And then finally, what are we doing here? Current is visible, okay, and new is visible, and then we're using those. Yes, we're checking to see, do we need to change the state or not? Fantastic. All right, that is by itself a great little snapshot here. Refactored the set main when visible functionality. Now, we can glance at the other changes, but I think this is going to be a fine commit. It's a very self-contained snapshot commit. Okay, so globals. We have the sample that we wrote up of what do we think Quest is auto open and Quest is backgroundable going to look like. We also have main window. We have these checkboxes that we're creating. All right, we're responding to the is auto open setting. Great. This is just enabling these debug options. Fine to just leave it here. And finally, we had the text for these checkboxes. Awesome. Very straightforward. So we can see we're not responding to the backgrounded thing yet. That logic is trickier. So we're just going to not do anything about it, but let's go through the process of saving off those settings, loading those settings, and so on. Okay, so we're going to want to go ahead and come on into globals. Let's see, globals, great. And in globals, this is the default settings structure. And so eventually, this is going to be empty. We just want to have a Quest is auto open entry into the global, into the settings, and Quest is backgroundable. But we're not going to automatically default any of these to true for the user. But this is where we're going to be setting that value. This is all going into the characters settings file. So this is not going to be an account-wide thing. Maybe it could be. Maybe it should be. But for now, you're just going to activate it per character until I decide that's a bad idea. We have a festival person in the house, actually. Maybe I'll toss that question over to Little Redhead to say, if you've chosen for a quest, like a market list, to automatically pop open when you receive it. So a market list, except boom, the UI shows up. Was that a good setting for your whole account or just for a character? In fact, anyone else in chat who wants to weigh in on that particular design decision? Now's a good chance. Whole account, says Little Redhead. I usually want the same things in the festival for any of my characters doing the festival. Okay. So when we come to the save data function, this is just in main.lua. That's a common place for saving and loading functions to go. We see a function save data. And in this function, we see 3 different things being saved out. We see settings going to character. We see char data going to server. And we also have Festival Buddy image IDs going to account. And what on earth is that? And why? Fascinating. Is this... Does this seem like maybe a hold of like something that was never implemented? Let's come on into plugin data, and we're going to go all servers, and come on into Festival Buddy image IDs, because I would say that's almost certainly going to be empty. Yes, so there's an empty table structure in that save file. What a fascinating idea. To my knowledge, nothing does anything with that. Yep, if we do a search for saved images, In fact, if we just do a search for images, we don't see anything in this area. We do see images, though, but not saved images. What a fascinating concept. Okay, well, that's neat. So we can go ahead and also have an account-wide setting for these things. That seems like a great idea. So coming back into the keeping track of what I'm doing thing in the to-do file. Okay, so we've got set up account-wide save structure for auto open and backgroundable settings. Great. Okay, so we're going to do settings, and then we'll also have a settings account equals, and that's going to default to an empty table. Table for account-wide settings. Feels like an unnecessary comment, but these other lines have comments, so why not? Okay, so any place where we're talking about settings, we could then talk about our own stuff. So this is default settings. Great. Default account-wide settings. And we can come in here and say default character settings. Great. Default account. Well, that's a good question. Did I call it settings or account settings? Settings account. Great. Default settings account equals, and then our default data that we want to use. Now in this case, we're going to go ahead and just pull in the items that we had already set up. Great. So this is quest is auto open. This is quest is backgroundable. Awesome. And now we want to go ahead and replicate how we are using that in main. So we have, well, let me go ahead and in save data, we're going to go ahead and do a patch data save. We've seen before how that helps with some localization issues. If you're switching between different language clients, English, German, French. Turbine.datascope.account. And this is part of the safety feature of Lord of the Rings Online. You can't read arbitrary files from someone's hard drive. They're going to be always in Lord of the Rings Online in your documents folder usually. Plug in data, and then it'll be at the account level. And if it is at the account level, it's your account name, all servers, or it'll be at the server level. So you'll come on in and it'll be at the all characters, or it's at the character level. And you'll come into that character name, and then there's the file. And those are the specific places that you can save things, basically the 3 specific places. And you just can't access files any other way. So we're doing it at that account, so it's going to be all servers level. And this will be festival buddy. And this will be account settings. Okay, so we have saving that. Now we need to talk about loading. Okay. Well, that's very nice. Jen would like to send some pictures from Thursday. Sweet. Well, if you don't want to post the link publicly here, and that's totally fine, you can always send them to my email, which is LOTRO. Oh, that's fine. And this is, you can find this in some of my plugins as well, lotrodtracker@gmail.com. Now that's mostly for people just sending feedback or bug reports or whatnot. I just got one the other day, but that I still need to respond to. But you can just send stuff there. That's totally fine. Okay. So we have settings equals. Great. So we're doing some stuff here. We're creating a saved settings temporary table. We're going to go ahead and define a function called getSavedSettings, and then we're going to use pcall to call that to make sure that we don't crash based on an error. Excellent. Now, this doesn't stop you from loading data that is bad. It stops you from failing if the file itself is incomplete for some reason. If the file is complete and you load it in and the information just happens to be bad, then that doesn't that doesn't protect you. In fact, someone recently had a minstrel buff issue where it very much seemed like their save file had some bad data in it, but it was in a loadable state. So minstrel buff would try to load that file, it would succeed, and then it would try to use the data in there and then crash. And so they could never use the minstrel buff plugin. The solution was just delete the file. There's nothing in the minstrel buff save file that is that important. Which theme are you using, basically? But a more robust thing would be to check that stuff and say, is this a number, if we're expecting that number, in the loading process? And if it's not what we're expecting, then do something sensible, like just default to the first theme. But that was a quick fix. Once when you just look at the code and you're like, well, it's looking at a theme, that's coming straight from the save file. If we're crashing here, something has gone really weird with the save file. Okay, so we're defining a function. We're calling it using pcall, and then we're calling it again. That's odd. And if there's an error, we are setting save settings to nil, and then writing out that there was an error. I could swear, though, that this is not optimal to load that file twice. I think I would just as well say, don't do that. And then if that is correct, we're going to unload, we're going to go ahead and load, and we can even do stuff like market list accept. Cool, and we can see everything still got loaded. Jen, you say, check my mail? I don't see anything yet, but perhaps it is winging its way through the tubes of the internet. Okay. Why are you objecting to that? I see. Patch data load is defined as returning an any. I feel like that is missing some annotations here. One of the things you can do with the, and I often say I forgot to this time, we're using Visual Studio Code and we're using the LOTRO API extension by LunarWater, which is fantastic. Thanks, LunarWater. And that it enables the IntelliSense to know about things like what type of is being returned from this function. But what we're seeing here is it's telling us, hey, I'm not sure what's going on here. And the reason is we're getting an anything back from this function, but we know it's going to be a table or nil. And so, let's see, hover over it, could be just about anything. Awesome. Now, I know there's a way to annotate those built-in functions, and this isn't quite a built-in function. There's ways to annotate that. So if I were to do another call, let's say, per bind.shell.writeLine, and come on into where that's defined, we can see what some of these look like. These annotations, these are manually addable annotations. And in that, we can go ahead and come on into patch.load, and we can actually annotate this. So we've got the comment. We've got some parameters. Don't know what those are yet. Let's just call them string, unknown. And this is going to return a table or nil. Now, we have 3 different parameters here. We have a param A, param B, param C. I actually don't know what they are yet. I'll have to look. But in fact, we're just passing them on to plugin load. So we can take advantage of that. Because it's the exact same annotation. Now this is interesting. It's returning an object. I wonder if that's right. It's fine. We're going to go ahead and steal that annotation for the Vindar patch. And we can see how much nicer the names of those were in the original load function. Data scope, key, data load event handler. We're not doing that here. We're not going to go ahead and rename these variables, but A, B, and C are just a little less fun. Okay, Jen, I see an email from you. Thank you so much. The internet has succeeded. Okay. Let's see. Turn type is table, the actual turn is anything. Yeah, that's fair. That is a result from pcall. But we know that that's not true, so I'm comfortable annotating it that way. So, okay, we've played around with some annotations. If we come on back here, then has that help here? Really feels like it should have helped. Maybe it'll take a little while to sort itself out. We've got pcall, and it really feels like all of this might benefit from some abstraction. So, function load file into table, and that's going to return just a table. Okay, so local loaded table equals this. And here's where we're going to mimic a lot of what's going on here. In fact, let's just go ahead and copy that. I guess it's just this part. Great. So saved settings, we're just going to call that loaded table. And then finally, return a loaded table. Now the error message, we need to go ahead and hoist out because we don't actually know which error message we're going to do here. But if we say that equals load file into table, we still need to pull out some parameters here. It's hard coded to that one file. That's okay. And then if saved settings equals nil, then we can go ahead and do that error. Okay. So what does this look like Okay, we need a scope, and we need a file name. And using that, go ahead and actually pull this right here. So, scope and file name. Okay, and then we can streamline this p call if else into just an if. If it's had some sort of an error, then we can go ahead and just double check that loaded table is nil. And finally, we're going to return loaded table. Okay, in load data then, we have the load file into table. Great. If it's nil, then we're going to go ahead and produce an output. And finally, we need to go ahead and simplify this down. What do we have? If that type is tables, then we're going to use deep copy and merge tables. These are two very common helper functions that you'll see in the LOTRO plugin community. So deep copy, remember if you assign one value to another value, you're just, in Lua, you're getting reference copies. So if you change the one, the other is going to appear to be changed as well. Deep copy will go ahead and copy off each element, each table entry, if you have a nested structure, and you'll get two distinct versions of the item. And then merge tables, similarly, is going to go through through that brand new version of the default settings, and then pull them into the save settings if we don't already have something in there. These are very good things to do for a save. That lets you effortlessly add new things to your save file and have default values for them that get pulled in if the user doesn't already have a setting. So, if the save settings is a table, we want to go ahead and make use of it. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and start with the default settings. That seemed a little overly complicated, but that's okay. We're going to go function merge default into table. Okay, what is that going to look like? We've got, we need the thing that's coming in. We can call it again loaded table. And then we need the default table. So that's saved settings here, awesome. And default table we're going to use instead of default settings. Okay, so either way, what we're doing here is not great though, because we're writing into a global variable. We want to go ahead and pull that out into a local variable. So we're going to have local merged table equals empty table. Awesome. And merge tables is what we're going to go ahead and return. And we're going to use that instead of settings. In fact, all of this temp setting stuff is not great. What do we really want is we have our defaults. So we have our defaults copy. And we're going to use that name instead here. Defaults copy is getting deep copied from defaults table. That reads much more fluently. And then we have, we're merging defaults copy and a loaded table. So that's going to be our merged table. So at that point, we can go ahead and replace all of this, hopefully. Let's find out. With merge default into, we're going to go ahead and merge the loaded table is saved settings. And then the default table is default settings. And that's going to be settings equals. And that should replace all of this. And now we have a much more reasonable thing to start copy pasting into multiple chunks. Now we should make sure that works, of course. So if I go ahead and reload, ideally, yep, the window opened, unload, reload, great. And if I go ahead and do market a list quest exception, great, that opened up, unload, reload, everything's working great. It's always nice to double check our assumptions there. But if that's the case, what do we have? We are loading the file into a table. If there's an error, we're reporting it. You know, I can't remember if we returned after that error message. Let's come on back into the main and see what we've changed here. And this is, of course, one of the beautiful things about source control is that you can see just what's changed since the last time you took that snapshot. Highly recommended. Saves me oodles of effort. Okay, so we write an error, but then we just continue. Fascinating. Okay. Oh, there's some complicated stuff happening here. Update old format to new format. Oh, yeah. Save file format changes. You just kind of leave that in there forever because you never know if someone comes back and has a 5-year-old save file. Okay, so we're going to avoid that. We've got the saved settings. We're going to go ahead and what is self-festival? Maybe that was an old one? I'm guessing that was an old setting that they're just setting to nil so that it doesn't persist. Okay, that is fine. I would have annotated that. Maybe say obsolete setting. There we go. And then we're setting that global value to selected festival into whatever was in the settings file. This seems weird. Why not just go to settings.festival instead of to selected festival? Not sure. But we're not changing that right now. Saved set account settings. So we want to just do the same thing here. Where we've got these 4 lines. We're going to come on in. This is going to be account settings. No. Yeah. Account settings. Great. This is going to be account level. And we've already got that name above. This is sometimes convenient to just pull out as a variable name, but we're only using it in a couple places. All right, so this is going to be Festival Buddy account settings. Great. So we're loading that into this table. We need an error message. No entry. Fascinating. Well, that's fun. Guess we should probably have one of those, huh? So, settings load error. We're going to go ahead and come on into lang. Just looking to see what else is in here. And if, as we just saw, if I do a search for error, we don't get anything. So I think that was just missed. That happens sometimes. So let's make a new table here, errors. And then we can go ahead and say there is a, oh, what is this going to look like? Okay, settings. We'll nest this up a little bit for convenience. I should say errors load settings, and that's going to be equal to our table that is English, etc. Cool. What would this be? This would have been just pretty simple. Error loading character save file from that. Cool. So that was settings. Now we just want one for settings account. And error loading account save file from. From's probably not the right word for that. But that's okay. Okay, so we have errors for loading, settings, and settings account. So if we come on in here, we can start referencing that instead. So we have lang errors load, and that is, this one is settings account. And from there, we're going to go ahead and do settings.language. And we'll do the exact same thing for this turbine shell right. Great. Except we're just going to do settings, not settings account. Okay. Fun. I didn't even realize that string was missing. I wish there was something that would have told me. Okay, from there, we have now imitated how we're going to go ahead and load in the account settings. We're going to go ahead and try to load it from this file. If we don't load anything, I mean, that's not really an error. What if they don't have anything? Maybe that's why that wasn't ever in there. Let's go ahead and unload and reload. But we'll go into the account-wide stuff. So we got plugin data, and that's all servers. And we're going to come look at that Festival Buddy account settings. Okay, it is just an empty table right now. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. Well, we're going to unload first. We're going to go ahead and delete that, and then load. And we are getting an error line written out, but it doesn't look like it's correct. Okay. Okay, we are bracketing and bracketing. Just double checking that I got my syntax correct. I want to see which one of these was triggered, if either. So just adding a couple of debug statements there, load it on in. Obviously, none of them is going to be a problem because we've recreated that file. So come on in, Festival Buddy account settings gone, load. Okay, we still see that failed to load account file, but what I'm not seeing is what's up with... Oh, of course, we don't have a settings.language at this point. Of course, so settings.language would be nil. This whole thing would be nil. It's nil all the way down. That's never going to work. So if we're having a problem loading the account settings, I would actually say that needs to come later. And this one failed to load character file. Settings.language. That's so interesting. Where would that be initialized? Huh. I don't know where that gets initialized, but it obviously does, and so that's okay. But saved settings, if saved settings is nil, then we're not going to have a settings.language. So that one has to be English. But once we're done with that, our default settings should have language as client lang. Awesome. And that's coming from here. That is so peculiar. Okay, we'll leave it at that. So once we've gotten to the account settings, we can then assume that we have a language. So what does that look like? Again, I'm not convinced it needs to be an error message. All right, Festival Buddy account settings. Maybe I should have deleted all these files. Unexpected symbol in strings. Yeah, that could be. Yep, that would do it. Okay, failed to load account file. Yes. I'm going to inspect what's going on with that structure because this is just weirding me out. In fact, I'm going to come into all servers here. We're just going to delete everything. I have backups. Okay, so error loading, account save file. Oh, of course, I don't have... Yes. I have one too many brackets in here, of course. That would do it. So, coming back in, deleting these files, loading, there we go. So, error loading account save file. But it's not an error. It's just, maybe that's why this error was never implemented, because it's not an error for these files to be missing. Sorry, someone in Ketchup was getting my attention. So it's not an error. It's not an error there. It is an error, I would say, if the p call fails. So if we're in here and loaded with errors, then I guess I would say that. So error message there. So that's where we would want to go ahead and say something maybe. So if we come on in here and write that out, but we're actually just writing out the error. Awesome. Then when we're doing the load file in the table, yep. Then here we'll go ahead and hoist this out. Awesome. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll hand off this message to the load file to table. And then it's one less thing to do in here anyway. Okay. So that's the normal state. Coming on in, deleting these, and hitting load. Cool. No error state. Again, an error state is going to happen when that file is just unparsable. So if we come on in and load in the account settings and then make this a nonsensical file like return 2.0, return of the king, then at that point, this should fail. Yeah, while processing, error unable to parse file, while processing that. Cool. That's a better message. And then if we go ahead and unload here, we can see our changes got overwritten. So we get a fresh file again. That's very good. Okay, so we have load file into table and the error message to use if that fails, which normally it does not. And then we merge the defaults into that table, assuming there are any that need to be. And that is done. This feels much cleaner for a load data function. And then there's all this nonsense down here. So I'm not gonna worry about that. So we can save. Saving is super easy. Whatever settings you have, dump them into a file. Loading is harder because you want to account for the file not being there, or for you having added new things that you want sensible defaults for. So that complicates loading. But here we've got both of those. So we're gonna go ahead and say, yay, that is good. Let's go ahead and come into the to-do file, and we can see set account-wide save structure for auto-open and background. All right, done. Now we need to actually pay attention to these details, these settings. So we're going to go ahead and move this on down below the other default settings. So we need to be able to edit these values and pay attention to these values. We've already seen in the main window where those checkboxes are. This is all line, say, 287 of the main window. So that's our next stop. Okay. In here, we have the background checkbox and the auto checkbox, and both of them are missing the crucial click handler. And just as a reminder, we haven't popped it open yet today, but if you are developing here in LOTRO, you're going to want to have easy access to the LOTRO API. It's a very handy way to browse this kind of thing. We have a checkbox that's a turbine.ui.lotro checkbox, and we can come on in here to the events to say, what are we looking for? We're looking for a check changed event. I'm so used to buttons that have a .click event. This is a check changed event fired when the check state changes. Great. Let's take a look at that. It's check change. It's going to take two arguments, a sender and an args. We don't actually need to care about both of those, but that is the formal parameter. So if we're going to come on in here, we can go ahead and say background checkbox, and we're going to assign check change to be the anonymous function that takes a sender and args. And in this case, it's just going to be simple. Turbine.shell.writeLine. I just want to make sure it's working. So check's changed. And that's going to be background checkbox, check changed. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for the auto open checkbox. And that will give us enough to test. So unload, load, awesome. Background, check, great. Auto open, check, check, great. Now, it's occurring to me, yeah, these checkboxes, I think I would prefer those to be hidden by default. So we'll just make a note. let's go ahead and hide the checkbox. And then checkboxes should be hidden by default. Great. Okay, so we background, yep. Auto, yep. Those are working great. I'll go ahead and get that out of here. And that one too. Okay, fewer windows to deal with. Okay, so checkbox site needs to save to settings. We know what that's going to look like. We're using the key of the quest, and we need to be able to load from there. Same thing. So the main window, these things. In fact, let's go ahead and solve that. Visibility background checkbox set visible to false. And same thing with the auto open checkbox. We're going to set that visible to false. Great. So when these things are being changed, for instance, the label quest guide, the scroll bar, there it is, drop down quest. When we refresh the quest guide, this is where we want to do something. Okay, so we go through all of the quests, and if we find one, really feels like this should be pulled out into its own function. So I'll do that right now. Function load quest. What do we need for that? We need K. We need the key. So we're going to call that quest key. Okay, so in here, we're going to go ahead and use quest key in place of K. Looks like we need that quest name. But do we need quest name? Or we already have brief fireworks. Oh, of course. We're going to need to come into strings. Brief fireworks. Yeah, so if quest key equals brief fireworks, much easier. And down here we still have quest key. All right, great. So ideally we can use that refactoring, that hoisting, to go ahead and say if the name of the quest equals this one, then load quest. Okay. Let's see what that looks like if we try that out. So we know a market list is a quest. So if we go ahead and accept that, great. We switch to Farmers Faire. We went ahead and loaded a market list. And if we go ahead and switch to somewhere else, everything's working great. Now, our checkboxes have disappeared. Awesome. Now is the time to make them appear. Now, I actually thought the backgrounding checkbox should only appear for certain quests, the quests that can be done in the background, the chat monitoring quests. And so it really feels like for those, we want to go ahead and have a lookup somewhere. So for instance, in quest strings, we might... Oh, it doesn't make sense to do that. No. We need it somewhere. But these are all in line. Well, these are not the place for that. Oh, where would be a good place for that? You know what, I'm going to stick it into global for right now. I don't think that's a good place for it, but it is a place for it. And that is backgroundable quests equals, and we'll go ahead and just enter them here. Probably. Is that really a 0 entry? In quality? Oh, undefined. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we have backgroundable quests. The first one, do I need keys like that? Let's find out. We want to go ahead and grab that. So we know, for instance, the Fat Mayor quest and Bounder Rounds quests are backgroundable. Any of the other ones? None of them from Farmers Faire. That's a good start. Add quest keys here. That should be backgroundable. Chat monitoring should persist if the quest has been accepted and not completed / failed, even if the quest is not selected. Okay. So that'll be enough for us to test for these purposes. Thus, we can now, in main win, while we're refreshing the quest guides, or I should say in load quest, make the checkboxes visible if appropriate. So if background quests, and this is the quest key. Oh. Let's go ahead and do it the way I instinctively wanted to at first. These are just going to be equals true. EXO says yellow mini got deleted on the current beta build. Looks like the next few weeks of plugging along are sorted with Minster buff changes. What happened? Did they do something over on Bullroar? Sorry, there's a cat in the background. I think it fell asleep and then wondered where we were when it woke up. Actually, Oh, they're making enough changes in the yellow line that they're just resetting the point spend? Interesting. I didn't realize they had those kind of minstrel changes coming. I am behind the times. Okay. Oh, really? Well, Exo in chat is saying they're not resetting the point spend, they're redoing it so that yellow is not going to be a specable trait. It's going to be something you spend points in besides blue and red. I guess I could understand that motivation. I mean, minstrels, their primary usage that I've seen is you're either healing in an instance, in which case you're probably going blue, or you're doing DPS anywhere, in which case you're probably going red. And yellow is definitely got some interesting stuff in it, but very rarely do I see people being like, yes, you should do yellow. Like, I saw that once, maybe on Bombadil, where we were doing Tharlock over in the Rift, and they wanted both a blue and a yellow minstrel, that kind of thing, right? So yeah, if that's coming in Bulwer for testing, then that's exciting. I'll definitely feel better about not having 3 of my traits open for minstrel. I've only ever got the 2, and so when I need to do yellow, it's like, well, I guess I'm just sacrificing one of these for a week while I work through those deeds or whatever it is. It's in the Bulwer beta form. Awesome. Well, if you want to get squelched, you're welcome to drop a link in there, and then I'll just repost it. Not a problem. But I know, not everyone wants to get squelched. Okay, so we've got our little lookup table here. And if backgroundable requests of the quest key, then braces. Oh, Exo has copied a link, and looks like he can link. So I guess you got blessed at some point. Nice. Thanks for posting that in there. Let me save that off for my own purposes. Neat. I'll have to go look at that in my copious spare time after the stream and after my homework and before bed, somewhere in there. We'll see. Okay, then we want the, what do we call this thing? Background checkbox. Oh, it's local? Ooh. We're going to need that to not be local. Okay, so we've got background checkbox set visible to true. In fact, we don't really need to be this complicated, right? We just need to set it to the value of is that key there. So this whole if statement is ridiculous. Just set it to the value of that key. It's either true or nil. And either one will work for our purposes. Probably. Let's find out. Okay, so we'll come on in to, hang on, I'm just noticing it is not going to the right festival. Okay, obviously a change has broken something. Okay, figure out why festival is not being loaded. I mean, all my refactoring in save file stuff could have broken something. Absolutely. In fact, if I come on over here, Farmers Faire, unload, let's come back into here. And instead of all servers, actually, we're going to come on into Treebeard, and that's Affodil. Holy moly. All right, this is Festival Buddy. Oh, Egarthar points out that LOTRO.com might be whitelisted. Cool, yeah, okay, Exo, you might not be blessed after all. I bet if you post a different link, you'll probably get squelched. X47 asks, does anyone know the add-on storyline for WoW? Would be cool to have something like that. I don't know that add-on specifically, but I will say that makes me think of a different plugin, as they're called here. Same thing. Over at LOTROinterface.com. And this is, I can't remember, but let me go to my favorites. Awesome. And it is one of these. Hang on a sec. Your own adventures. There we go. So there's a plugin out there, fascinating plugin, but I think a French developer, which seems to add some support for English as well. But it lets you craft your own, as it says, your own adventures. You can construct a whole thing in the game. In theory, I haven't tried this myself, but it responds to, oh, you're talking to this NPC. Okay, that's an option. Opens up this option. Oh, you need to go do whatever. So you can implement arbitrary quest sequences and objectives, and it sounds fascinating. In my dreams of having copious spare times, it's one of those things where I'd love to come in here and be like, oh, okay, maybe we could have a your own adventure for plugin development or something. I don't know. Probably not. Probably more interesting things to have. So it definitely looks fantastic. It's got its own kind of deeds or achievements system. It's got its win at rock paper scissors. That's an objective. Who knows how that's supposed to happen? But the whole thing's fascinating. I'd love to know more about it. Oh, interesting. Storyline changes, so nothing like what I thought. Changes quest window so the character and NPC are in a window looking at each other and the text is in between like a dialogue. Oh, that's cute. No, so unfortunately, the things that you can do in Lord of the Rings Online are a little bit more restricted than what you can do in World of Warcraft. And so it is not possible through the scripting interface to know what quest text is being said or what quest dialogue options there are, that kind of thing. It's not entirely impossible to have that information in a separate form and use it in some way, but you can't restructure the UI in that way. So while I love the idea of this plugin and have no idea if it works or how well it works, doesn't sound anything like what you were saying. That being said, the camera in this game is pretty flexible, so if you want to zoom in, you can kind of get a sense that you're talking to the NPC, but you're still looking at it in a quest dialog box. Yeah, Egg Arthur is pointing out there's things you could do. So you could theoretically you could do some things kind of like that, but if an NPC has more than one quest that they can interact with, it's very difficult as an API, as a plugin to know which quest you're interacting with them and which part of the quest you're on. So yeah, it would not really work in that sense. It's a really neat idea, though. I love the idea of that sort of more immersive playing that can be afforded by a plugin. So cool. Thanks for asking. Okay. So have a to-do item to figure out why that's broken. Awesome. But if we come on in here to a market list, they're not visible. Come in there to the Fat Mayor quest, it is. A shopping list, no. Bounder rounds, it is. So that is going great. Now we have a way to make sure that the backgroundable thing is only for where it's appropriate. And now we need something else for the other. We need, in the main win, we need to go ahead and set the auto open visible if we have a quest. What do we do if there's no quest? It's a fascinating idea. Where do we set DD quests? Set text. Nowhere. There we go. Festival functions. Clear selected quests. All right, where's that? Okay, find complete or failed. Okay, so we only clear it there, and in clear selected quests, we want to go ahead and same thing as in here. We want to go ahead and set auto open checkbox, set visible to false, and otherwise refresh load quest. We want to go ahead and set that to true. Let's give that a try. All right, so Farmers Faire, a market list, auto open, that's available. And that should stay available until we come in and we say, Mayor, we're going to go ahead and fail that. We give them too much stuff. Oh, okay. Background needs to be fixed there as well. So we're going to go ahead and do background checkbox, set visible to false. Awesome. This is why we test. Farmers Faire. All right. Accept. Great. Complete. Accept. Fail. Awesome. Bounder rounds. Accept. Complete. Okay. And then mark it list, except, awesome. So we can see that auto open is always coming. The background is only coming when we want it to. Those are both great. Okay. So when changing quest in the dropdown, the state needs to be loaded. Checkboxes should be hidden by default. Done. If there is no quest, hide the checkbox. That's done. Finally, we do need to load the state for when we actually are making the things visible. And so all right, I was wrong. We do want to go ahead and pull out this conditional. If that, then, because we want to go ahead and load the state of the background checkbox as well, either checked or not checked. And then we'll always load the state of the auto open checkbox. Okay, so where do we find this? Well, this is in that globals in the settings account. So we're going to be looking for local background setting equals that settings account, and then it's going to be in there quest is auto open, quest is auto open, and we're just looking for quest key, and that's either going to be true or nil. And we can go ahead and background checkbox set checked to be background setting. And same thing here. In fact, is that adding anything? It's not really. Let's go ahead and inline that. And we're going to go ahead and say the auto open checkbox equals set checked. This is the, oh, that was the auto. Okay, we need the other one, which is quest is backgroundable. Awesome. So maybe that is enough to load these values. Let's give that a shot. So if we're over here in the Farmers Faire, we can go on into bound arounds, and we get an error. Awesome. Attempt to index quest is backgroundable, a nil value. Well, that sure seems weird. Let's go ahead and do a turbine.shell.writeLine. And we're going to go ahead and do a dump of the quest is backgroundable table. In fact, we'll do the whole settings. So settings account, and we're going to go ahead and do a dump of that. So Farmers Faire, and then Founders Rounds. Great. It is empty. Settings account is empty. Now, I was expecting we were going to go ahead and merge in those default settings accounts. So what did I miss? Well, account settings, we need to merge in default settings account. That would definitely help. Although it makes you wonder why it is empty then. I bet I've done something wrong. Oh, we're also applying that to settings. That would certainly do it. Let's go ahead and settings account, fix that. Oh, hey, and now Farmers Faire is back. All right, so Pickerwall Farmers Festival is not being loaded. Done. Excellent. Excellent. X47 in chat asks, sorry I forgot to ask my favorite question, is there a way to fully hide the chat window? So there's two answers for you. If you're trying to do something like take a screenshot, then your toggling of the, let's see, The toggle HUD on-off setting, which defaults to F12, should hide everything. And it does hide the chat window as well. But if your goal is to, for instance, that you want to stream something or record some video, no, the chat window does not hide by default. But what you can do is you can go into the change text colors, and you can slide that opacity down all the way to 0. And you can also just have a new tab whose content is empty. It doesn't receive anything. And so at this point, it is almost hidden. You still have the any tab names. Those are still there. But you can see the background's completely opaque. And now we can do the last thing, which is to resize it. That's hard to see. Bring it on all the way down here. What might be a little bit more hidden is maybe bring it all the way to the upper left there, and then just switch on over. And so you can see, except for the tab titles themselves, you have an almost hidden. And I don't know, can you actually then hide this underneath like the radar? Because the radar does, yep, there we go. So if you then put those underneath the radar, and I'm a little sad now because I've got to go rescue that. But you can see the chat window is still there, but it's underneath the radar. And the radar is, I think, a perfectly reasonable thing to include in a video. So if you're streaming or recording video, that radar is expected to be there, but you can obscure the chat window by just putting it underneath the radar, which is something I did not realize you could do. So thanks for the question. Now I've got to rescue my chat window here. Put the radar back, and that for me is Control / to unlock the radar. You may have rebounded to something else. Okay, so to undo that, I'm going to resize this thing. I'm going to go ahead and come back into the options and bump that opacity back on up to, about 70%. I like being able to see through it, but I like being able to read the text. Okay, so that's a bit of a hidden feature. By default, no, you cannot turn the chat window off. And I think I can understand why they did that. So remembering that this game dates back, the code base, almost 20 years. And you could definitely understand someone somewhere was like, if we give the users the ability to turn the chat window off, people are going to do that accidentally and not be able to turn it back on. And I think there's enough players even nowadays where if the chat window was just gone, you'd be like, oh, I guess I'm never getting that back, right? You might not find it because the options menu, there's so many options, right? There's so many ways you can tweak the game. So if there was a turn chat window off function, 10 out of 10, 100% chance people will accidentally do that, not realize they've done it, and then have no chat window. Yeah. So, I can see why they did not include the option to shoot yourself in the foot, even though sometimes you want to shoot yourself in the foot. Little Redhead says, I used to have a coworker who put herself into full screen and have no idea what it was. Was that like an Internet Explorer Chrome style window? Yeah, it's absolutely possible if you don't realize it to hit the F11 button, and then that's just your screen now, right? And you're a little sad. We're in our Dutch language class, our teachers are not technically as proficient as we feel like we are. And so sometimes we'll ask them to do what I think is a very simple thing. Like, oh, hey, the contents in the browser window are not fitting in one screen, and I'd like to take a picture of that for my records. Can you just press the F11 key to do what we just did, make it full screen? And they're like, do the what now? I was like, this is a fundamental feature of your browser. It's been there for 20 years, and some people just don't know, right? And they're going to hit the key accidentally and be very confused. So I can see them being like, no, you can't turn off the chat window. We're not going to field 20,000 support calls over the next 20 years because we gave you the ability to shoot yourself in your foot, and then you did it. That's okay. So we're going to go ahead and come back in. We're going to unload and reload and come on into Bounders Rounds. Awesome. So we see our actual settings accounts have been populated, and more importantly, we can see that background check is checked, which is just great. What we're not seeing is that boundary checkbox going away anymore. So incremental progress. Arthur, Little Red says it was Excel. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. Or nowadays, oops. In Microsoft Word, if you don't know, you can collapse down what they call the ribbon. I of course was using word processors way before the ribbon, and in general this is a better system. But if you don't know, you can just double click on one of the headers, and the whole thing just collapses on down. And congratulations, you no longer have a ribbon. If you click it, it comes back. If you click off it, it goes away. But if you want it to always be there, you just double click. I mean, same thing for the page breaks, right? Like if you want the page breaks between pages or not, you can double click that hidden area in between, and it's not discoverable. Like if you accidentally do that, it's good luck realizing you did it. Like Arthur, you can quit IM, delete. Oh, you can quit. Hey, you can close your IMs. What does quitting IM do? I'm afraid to click that. Okay. Apparently you can quit IMs. Does it just reopen as soon as you get an IM? You can delete all tabs, general, filter everything out, shrink it down to be tiny and out of the way. I'm going to go with, from now on, if I'm filming stuff, I'm going to go with the just slide it underneath make it as small as possible, slide it under the radar, and just, be done with it. I like that even better than you just shrinking all the way down and making opaque, which was what I've been doing for videos. Oh, okay. We'll give it a try. I'm gonna quit IMs. It's just gone. Okay, and then yes, and then someone's going to message me. Okay. Neat. So we are loading checkbox states, but we're not loading. Okay, auto open. Yep. A nosy request. Cool. A shopping list. So the checkbox there is being loaded, but our background checkbox is not being correctly loaded. Because okay, when I refactor this, I did it wrong. We were always setting the value, and now we're only setting it to true here. We need local background checkbox is used equals this value, and then always we're going to set the visibility based on that. But if it is true, then we're also going to do these other things. Okay, that'll be better. Okay, so a market list, great. Bound around, it's checked. Vendor list, it is not great. I almost wonder, maybe we should always just set it, because then the checkbox would be deselected. I don't think we're ever going to be looking at the checkbox state, but why not? Yeah, okay. I've changed my mind completely. We don't even need to care. We'll always update the state. It's usually going to be off. And then we'll change the visibility. Okay, so much easier to read. Uh-oh. I've been set an IM, but I don't see an IM. Oh, enable IM. Oh, okay. If you right-click, there's a quit IM option. If it's gone, you have to enable IMs, and while it's disabled, you just don't get IMs. Try again. There's a cat on the keyboard. This is going to take a little while. Thanks, Kato. Okay, yes. So I did not realize you could disable IMs. That's really neat because, again, if you're filming a video or something, which we do occasionally, you don't want the bong sound of an IM to come through.
Do you get it?
No. No, if IMs are disabled. I'm curious in your general tab if you got an error like IMs are disabled.
No.
Huh. Oh, no, okay. it came through in my general tab. It didn't come through in my items. And you can't get rid of your general tab. Oh, that's so weird. As Little British points out, it's very possible to play this game for years and not know even everything about the game. Like maybe someone knows everything about the game. Most people don't know everything about the game. I love learning that there's some feature like you can just turn those things off. It's fine. I do wonder if the noise comes through. I don't have my sound turned up very much here. Here, let me disable. Now that my sound's turned up. Let's see. Does it make a bong?
All right, let me get under the cat.
Up. We should get a keyboard for the cat to sit on. Okay, so the ding comes through. You'd have to disable that in your filters if you wanted to, for the purest video recording. Okay, that's fascinating. Thank you, Egg Arthur, for pointing out that disabling your IM tab is a possibility. That's neat. Okay. So we have gone ahead and loaded the checkbox state for background and auto open. Fantastic. Let's come on back to our to-do list and see what else is going on. Checkbox state needs to save to settings. Cool. We'll come back to that. When changing quests, the state needs to be loaded for the new quest. Done. So all of this is done, and the one thing we don't do is save off the ability of that check. Okay. It's just not actually on the computer. That's fair. It's still preventing you from typing. Okay, so we've got the desire when I click this for it to save. So I've clicked it on Bounders Rounds, coming back to Bounders Rounds, it's not saved. Oh, interesting. The checkbox change is being fired each time we change tabs. I wasn't expecting that. Let's come on back to the API documentation. Checkbox. And set checked. I wasn't expecting that to trigger the checked changed, but I think we'll need to just take that into account so that we don't go into some sort of infinite loop. No, we're just changing the settings value. That should be fine. Okay. So, as we are set up to do it, when those checks are changed, we're going to want to have the key of the current quest. Now, I don't know if we have that. When we do a load quest, we have that key. I think we might want to go ahead and, just like we have a selected quest, have a selected quest key. So, selected quest key equals that. Selected quest. Clear selected quest, yep. Selected quest equals empty. Great. Equals empty. Okay, now we're initializing it. Great. So we have that available to us now. And that means we can easily make use of that here. So in our load quest, we were doing settings account, quest is backgroundable, blah. So we're going to go ahead and pull out that for reference. Same thing down here, settings account, quest is auto open. We're going to pull that out for reference. Okay, and now in this function, instead of just writing out to chat each time, we want to go ahead and if it's true, we want to enter that in, but I don't really want to save out false. False and not present is identical. And so I would love to be able to delete an entry from a table completely. And for that, I'll have to go back to the internet because I don't remember how to do that. Setting to nil could work for persistence purposes, so I'll try that first. But if that doesn't work, then I'll go on to other things. So if background checkbox, wait, why do I have a double X somewhere? Oh, X, yeah, is checked, then we want to go ahead and set settings account quest is backgroundable, and that is the selected quest key equals true. Else, we want to go ahead and say it's equal to nil. You know, there's so much repetition here. I feel like that's fixable. Local is checked equals that. If not is checked, then is checked. Now let's do this better. Local is checked equals nil. If local value to use equals nil. If is checked, then value to use equals true. End. Okay. Then we can just use the value to use as that, and then that collapses down this if statement into a single branch. There we go. Okay, so is checked equals that. The value to use equals nil, but we'll change it to true if we're checked, and then we'll set that. Okay, and then we'll check the actual value in the file and see if nil values are serialized. Cool. And that's up to the LOTRO function that we're calling first of all, but then any underlying Lua behavior. All right, same thing for the other. In fact, these are so identical that I really feel like this should be extracted out to a helper function. But for now, is checked is that. Value to use is this, is checked, and then quest is auto open instead of backgroundable. There we go. Okay, it's only 4 lines, so pulling that out into a helper function feels a little like overkill. It just so duplicated code here. That's okay. Okay, so what do we have here? Apple shopping. If I go ahead and click that and come on into an as request and then back to Apple shopping, we can see the check mark is there. If I unload that, I'm going to want to come on into the all servers, where we can go ahead and check out the value. Quest is auto open. Apple shopping is true. Awesome. Let's come on in. Let's come on back to Apple shopping. Deselect that. Now, if we come on over to a market list, it's checked. Come back to Apple shopping, it's not checked. Unload that and come on back to the file, and we can see the nil entry was stripped out. So setting the key, the value of the key to nil results in it not kind of polluting our file and building up. You could picture a dozen different quests just set to nil. And so now, if it's here, it is yes. Otherwise, in all other cases, it is no. Perfect. It's just what we want. Okay, so we have the ability to save off the value of the checkbox, and that's perfect. Checkbox state needs to save setting. Done. So that kind of step by step is the plan that we had enacted with a few detours. So that's the ability to pin a quest. So accepting other quest is not okay. We don't actually have that yet. So but that's all of auto open. Now for backgroundable has a few extra things. Backgroundable. We need to in sorry, just debating to myself. Currently, my thought is we mark it as backgroundable, but that's just keyed off of whether we've seen you pick up and or turn in the quests. My concern with that is that if we miss you turning in a quest or miss you picking up the quest, then it doesn't work. But I think it's, in most cases, it'll be good enough for our purposes. So what we want to do is in character save settings, when we accept a quest, set it to true, like bounder rounds equals true. And character settings dot active quests or something. When we accept a quest, turn it true. When we complete / fail a quest, set it to nil, because as we've already seen, that's going to clear it out from the save file, so the save file doesn't grow in size. When we accept a quest that we care about, set it to true. Again, we don't care about any other quests, but if it's a festival quest, then we care about it. When we fail, and then if a quest can be backgroundable, then during chat monitor, check for is active quest or is accepted quest. And the active quest is the quest in that dropdown. Actually, what do we call that? Selected quest, okay. Is selected quest, or is it the quest? Actually, just during chat monitor check for is selected quest, is quest backgroundable and accepted in progress. In progress quests. Okay, so what do we have? We're going to accept quests. During the accepting and completion, we're going to keep track of that. And when we're chat monitoring, we'll add an extra exception. And that should be all we need to make this work. And we'll be able to test that because we already have some testing for the Fat Mayor quest. So for instance, I'm on it right now. And we'll even say Fat Mayor accept. Well, and you know what? Bounder rent. Oh yeah. I actually have testing for this. So we accept that. Cool, it's active. He wants salt. Understandable. But if we click a different quest and go for butter, nothing happens. And so that's where we're going to go ahead and take advantage of this background feature. Okay, so we need in-progress quests or something like that. And that's going to go into globals. And this is going to be a part of the default settings. And that's going to be an empty table. Okay, but it will look like, say, bounder rounds equals true. Example. Okay. We're coming up on the end of stream time here. I'm crossing my fingers. I think we can get this working, but as we're coming up to the end, if you've got any last minute thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, all of that stuff about plugins in LOTRO, LOTRO in general, Lord of the Rings in general, feel free to pop them onto the chat here and we'll get to them before the end. All right, so we have added to character settings something called in progress quests. So now we need to go into the accepting a quest. So we have a new quest. So if we find the quest, then we're going to go ahead and save it off. So that's going to be settings. That's going to be whatever we just called it. In progress quests. Great. And that's going to be the key equals true. I'm realizing that right now we're filtering completed or failed quests just based off of our current selected quest. That is incomplete for what we need. We need to be able to track that you completed it in the background as well. So it feels like we need to be able to check for the completion of any quest. So specifically we're looking for the cleared quest, but if we go ahead and do a look through every quest, alright, so we need to stop tracking, mark any, I know, we have the keys, we do. So for festival, don't need that. We have for key value in pairs, and this is actually going to be in the settings. Settings. And this is in progress quests. We're just going to iterate through those because we have the key. We can go ahead and we don't have the festival number. I think we need the festival number. So we're going to go ahead and new quests, in progress quest is actually going to be the festival number, not true. And then we can use that. So we can use that for local quest to check equals, and we're going to go ahead and do lang quests. That is the quest key. That is the festival number. Okay, so we have a quest to check, and then the rest of it is fine. So we can go ahead and hoist those constants out, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a find here. If the find result in C message quest to check, if find result, then we want to go ahead and remove that from the ones that we're looking at. And so that is settings in progress quest. And that's the key, quest key equals nil. And then we'll stop tracking that. Okay. I was a little worried about being able to make that work. I think that's going to be fine. Stop tracking in progress quests, even if it's not the selected quest. So we need that there. Then we go ahead and clear the selected text. Awesome. Hang on a second. How do we know that we're doing succeeded or failed? Okay, we've explicitly looked for succeeded or failed in the messaging first. Great. Okay, so we can test that. Let's say we go ahead and accept founder rounds. Accepting that. Awesome. Unload. Now, in our character file, this is the account one. Let's go ahead and come on up to Treebeard, Affodil. Great, Festival Buddy stuff. So in progress quests, we see bound rounds equals 6. So if we load this again, wouldn't that be neat to automatically select the quest if you were if you only had one? Or I guess select the first one. That's a neat idea. Let me throw that in there. Okay. Automatically select a quest if it's the only in progress. Only one in there. Okay, so don't have to worry about that. But that being said, it is active. So if we come on in here and complete it, bounder rounds, yay, all done. Oh, that's an error. Awesome. So that's in Festival Functions line 75. Great. Bad argument number 2 to find string expected. Oh, of course, I didn't actually get the localized version of it. We needed to throw in a settings.language. So, founder rounds. We've gone ahead and, oh no, failed it. That's fine. Coming back to that save file. It's there, unloading, that triggers the save. I didn't see it. Save. We need a little bit of output. Okay. So turbine.shell.writeLine checking quest to check against C message. Okay. And then if we found it, bound setting value to nil. Okay, so we're gonna come back in, bounder rounds, complete. Awesome. Another error. Attempt to concatenate local quest to check. A nil value. Exciting. Oh, of course. I need that key. Okay. Found setting value to nil. Awesome. So we're going to be able to compare that. In progress quest is now empty. Great. So let's go ahead and get rid of those debug messages. load that back in. And again, we can do the full one. Oh, hey, Rosenblum. Boundar rounds. We're going to go ahead and accept that and unload the plugin. In here, we can see in progress quests, boundar rounds is 6. Go ahead and load this back in. And boundar rounds, we're going to go ahead and complete it. Unload. Oh no, was I too fast? Maybe we're not doing anything. Oh, okay. Where is this getting called? Okay, where is this getting called? Oh, yes, okay. We're checking against selected quest not being equal to nil. Foolishly optimizing ahead of time. Check for completed or failed in progress. That's a wrong order. Check for in progress that is completed or failed. All right, see message. So we're going to go ahead and hoist this out into a separate function that can be called separately. And then we're going to go ahead and delete that from here. All right, so check for progress that is complete or failed. We're just going to go ahead and call that either way. Okay, so load and unload a couple times to make sure we have our in progress boundar rounds. Great. Now we can go ahead, boundar rounds, and complete that. Great. We see that coming through in the chat message, and now it's empty. Cool. Okay, so we can track quests. Now, this can get out of sync if you don't load Festival Buddy automatically on login and you pick up or complete a quest before you do load it, then we're just going to be out of sync. And the answer is the next time you go accept and complete the quest, that will clear these flags. But we're not going to have a manual way to clear that flag at the moment. And of course, once the festival is over, even if it thinks you're tracking a quest, you're not going to be seeing those chat messages that apply, so it won't matter. Okay, excellent. So what do we have? When we accept a quest we care about, set it to true. Okay, that's done. When we complete it, set it to nil. Done. And during chat, monitor. Now we need to actually pay attention to it. Okay, so this is going to be in maybe a couple of places. Filter say, for instance. Bree fireworks announcer. So we're gonna get we're gonna probably want a helper function because we're gonna have the same thing over and over and over. So for example, if we're in Farmers Faire and the selected quest is blah, so this is what we want to fix. Function is process should process chat. Okay. And so that is the we're going to go with quest key again. And so we have local is selected quest. Actually, we need the quest name equals, and we're going to go ahead and get it using the same mechanism, except where it would be fat mayor, we're going to go ahead and use the quest key. Okay, so that's the quest name. Is selected quest is selected quest. Oh, that is more complicated than we need. Selected quest key equals quest key. Super easy. Do we even need the quest name at that point? Let's see. yeah, all these selected quests would be better just being selected quest key, getting rid of the language, and not worrying about it. That being said, I don't think we need the quest name. Awesome. Is selected quest local is quest backgrounded equals, and that is account, no, settings account dot quest is backgroundable, and that is quest key. No, we don't care about if it's backgroundable, we care about if it has been backgrounded. That is settings dot I've forgotten myself. You know, I called it quest is backgroundable, but that's just not right. Is backgrounded. It's fine. I don't like the name. All right. So quest backgroundable. Fix this name. It doesn't convey that the user has marked it as background. Okay, but that is the one we want. So we're in the chat logger. Quest is backgroundable, quest key, bam. So return, local result equals is selected quest or is quest backgrounded. Return result. Okay. So if it's selected quest, doesn't matter. And if it's not the selected quest, we'll go ahead and prefer the value of is quest backgrounded. And that's where we'll go ahead and use this. Should process chat. So we're in filter say. For instance, if selected quest equals blah, blah, blah. How about if should process chat. So sorry, I'm mentally pausing a second to make sure that what we've written will work here. If the selected quest equals that, oh no. So we don't know, oh, nuts. Okay, new plan, do better. What we're doing is only checking the selected quest, but what we really want is Bree fireworks? That's the question we need to answer. Okay. Whoops. So this is the question. Is this, should we handle this quests chat? Okay, so, and that question, so we're going to get this key, and I think the logic is still the same. If the selected quest key is that key, then we're good. And if that quest key has been backgrounded, we're good. So that's where we're answering it, though. So if should process chat of this, then, and again, we are requiring that you've selected the correct event, the correct festival, but I think I'm okay with that. Okay, so same thing here. If should process chat of line quest Farmers Faire Fat Mare, one reason or the other, then, all right, same thing down here. If should process chat, and we're pulling out a line boundary of rounds. There we go. Then Okay, so Hobnanigans is its whole other thing, so we're not going to deal with that right now. But we have the Fat Hobbit Lil Whitfoot. We have Bound Arounds. Over here we have the Brief Fireworks Announcer. You know what? We'll go ahead and just add that to our list of backgroundable things, since we know about it. Okay. And then what else? That's all this says. Are there any quest chat that apply here? I don't think so. Let's double check. Filter quest. Hobnanigans, don't need to worry about it. Farmers Faire. Okay. Okay, that's for canceling alerts, but we don't do anything else. That's fine. Awesome. Standard. That's for acting. For the Yule Festival, don't need to worry about that. Okay, I think that might actually be what we want. So, we wanted to, during chat monitor, check for if it's a select quest or if it's backgroundable. Oh, and is in progress. Okay, I think I missed that. So, should process chat. What was that? Check for is selected quest, yeah. Or is background chest and in progress. So local is in progress equals, and that one is in settings, in progress quests, and that's the quest key. So, there we go. So, is it the selected quest, or is quest background and is in progress? Perfect. That's exactly the logic that we've spelled out in our comment here. And that's what we're going to go ahead and give a try. So, what do we want? We want to go ahead and accept Bounder. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's accept Fat Mare. I have the testing for that right here. We're going to accept that. Great. Now we know internally that we're tracking that. So our logic is not right because we're not getting this. Cool. Something's wrong. Let's go ahead and just give ourselves these as outputs. So turbine.shell.writeLine. We're going to go ahead and say each of these things. So is selected quest. We'll go ahead and concatenate that. And then is quest backgrounded. Oh, but these could be nulls. So let's go ahead and dump the value because, sorry, booleans. Booleans don't behave well for turbine.shell.writeLine. And we don't want to crash. And then is in progress. There we go. So let's see what these things are. Hopefully that'll also tell us that we're in the correct function. So we're accepting that. Awesome. Setting value to nil. Oh no. Oh. Yeah, that'll do it. Over here in the quest handler, when I check for in progress that's complete, okay, my early optimization here, I think, is wrong. We always want to be checking, even if the selected quest is nil. Okay, so regardless of whether the quest is nil, we need to be checking to see if it's failed or succeeded, because we care about that here. And in fact, we could go ahead and coalesce those, or switch those two functions back together, probably. but I think I'm comfortable leaving them apart if it's working. All right, so accept. All right, and then complete. Cool. So now that we've got that, we should be able to go ahead and say butter is in progress is nil. You know what? I want even more information. So turbine.shell.writeLine, we're going to go ahead and get the selected quest key. We're going to get the actual past quest key. We're going to get the quest is backgroundable and the in progress. So turbine.shell.writeLine, we're going to go ahead and is backgroundable, and we're going to go ahead and dump that out. Same thing for the in progress quest. We're just going to go overkill here. Okay. Accept that. Great. We're going to make that window a little bit bigger. And then butter. Oh, great. So we have an empty quest key. There we go. That's from 114. Oh, it's a table value. Yes, that would do it. Yes, I completely messed that up. We're trying to pass in a key, this thing, but of course we're passing in the whole table, which is English and possibly other languages. What we really just want is the key. Okay, it is just that. All right, bound around, put a quote around it. Great. All right, quest accepted. Now we are successfully saying use butter. I'm going to unbackground this for a moment. Come back in, make sure. Okay. Milk, great. Change to something else. Butter, milk, salt, nothing. Awesome. But if we come on back into bound to the FatMayor quest and make it backgrounded, come on out and then use butter. Ah, so good. We can see that it works. All this chat spam that I've produced is not worth it right now. We can see I can be working on a market list, and if the mayor says something, use wine, I will see that. That's exactly what I wanted 2 weeks ago, but a year from now, if Farmers Faire comes around again, it'll be there. Okay, so if I accept, if I complete, looks like we still have some debug here. In the completed stuff, that's in our festival functions. There we go. Okay, checking that. Setting found, setting to nil, excellent. Okay. Oh, that's very exciting. Oh, that's funny. The water one uses an outdated text string that we had. So if we go into our options window, so ... there should be a space there, I think. Let's come on into our strings and find the right one. Ah, there's a fourth period also. Great. Okay, unload, reload, and butter. We can see we just loaded the plugin. We just logged in, and it already knows that we had FatMayor active. So you could imagine if you logged off in the middle of doing this, logged back on, you'd immediately see, use butter if the mayor says something. That's beautiful. And then if we go ahead and mark it as complete, ideally, we're not going to see any more notifications. Great. A Commodore in chat asks, I'm curious how many of the other events/festivals have you made automation plugins for? This plugin, Festival Buddy, was actually created by, I believe, Galahad before me. I've just come in and, yep, Galahad. I've just come in and tried to add a few extra things. So I wanted to have a Hobnanigans scoreboard, for instance. The game tells you, oh, you're ahead by 3, you're ahead by 4. But I was curious, it'd be neat to have the actual score and time elapsed. So, if you start a quest on field 2 and then you start the game, so it would actually tell you how much time is left. You can look at the chat log and kind of mentally do the arithmetic. That's hard to do while you're running around chasing after the chicken, right? And so, when 6 minutes comes around, you get a little notification because the timer bar changes color. Same thing when you hit 2 minutes, and these are also when you get those new skills in Hobnanigans. So this is a new thing I added, but Festival Buddy already has a bunch of stuff. For instance, the next big festival coming up, I believe, is Harvest Math. And we can see that Festival Buddy already had a bunch of things, both for tracking your states for the things like geode hunting and pumpkin picking, but also to give you like clues for a riddle in a bottle. And so, yeah, this is mostly not my plugin. I've done a little bit of things in this patch to bring it up to date with the Farmers Faire, because that post-dated this plugin, and also Hobnanigans, and I can't remember if I did anything else. Oh yes, the anniversary fireworks in Brie. We get a little box to put around your actual, you just drag it on top of your actual event quick slot, and it just tells you which fireworks to set off. And I find that helpful, and how long you have to do it. That's the other thing I like about that. So you still have 8 seconds to launch something that's not red now. So I really like the fact that we're able to go ahead and add on to this existing plugin and just add more features to it. Okay, great question. I hope that answers your question. There are some other plugins. I would highly recommend the Rich plugin for the treasure event. It's a little weird that it wasn't integrated into Festival Buddy. It's by the same author, but it's fantastic. It'll keep track of all your stats. So how many rounds have you been present for? What was the shortest round? What was the longest round? How much time you've spent in the fields? Apparently 40 hours for me. That's a little astonishing. How many tokens you've earned and spent, and how many chests you've gotten of each size. That's really great. Like for a stats nerd as myself, I really appreciate knowing, oh, I've gotten 63 of the total huge chests, and I still haven't gotten the stupid beaked mast cave claw mast mount yet. But maybe next event. And it also has a nice UI for displaying the tokens you've got and the other various things that you have. So the Rich plugin is its own thing. Highly recommended, though, during the Treasure Festival and no other time. Festival Buddy has most of the rest of the festivals in there, and I've been trying to keep bring it up to date. I think this was put out back in 2014, and so some of the newer stuff's just not there. All right. Well, thanks for that great question, Commodore. What else do we have? During chat monitor, good, done, done, and done. Okay. So in progress quest, automatically select if it's the only one. I think that'd be really neat, but I'm already over time, so that'll have to be a next week thing. In the meantime, there's a bunch of changes. I think instead of trying to do that right now, we'll just next time try to remember what we've done and kind of look at it with fresh eyes in case there's things in here that we added that we didn't mean to add. Like this new line character right here, we can get rid of that. So we'll go ahead and next time decide which of these things we want to go ahead and commit or not. This change ended up not being useful. I'm just going to throw it away. We'll go ahead and walk through what the changes we have, commit the ones that are appropriate, kind of break it into pieces, and then move on with these other ideas. I think next week will probably be the last Festival Buddy week before we move on to other things. The festival is over even now, but because we have a rich set of debug functionality, we can pretend as if we're still doing the festival for the purposes of development. And that's really nice because if you spend all of your festival time developing the festival plugin, you don't actually get any festival time, and that would be sad. So highly recommended when you're working on your own plugins, do go ahead and include the ability to fake out as much as you can the game state. We can see here we have a whole little table for Hobnanigans because there's a whole sequence of things you have to do. You have to accept the quest, you have to hear the game start, all of these things. And so, yeah, don't depend on Hobnanigans being active for you to be able to test things. If you could only test the beginning of a Hobnanigans game in real time, it's going to take a lot longer for you to do your Hobnanigans plugin, and so on. So whatever you depend on real game state to do, try to fake it out as much as possible in your debug so that you can develop out of pace with what the game is doing. Okay, neat. Agartha says, I simulate NPC dialogue via multiboxing. I have my own festival announcer, Fat Mayor, etc. You can definitely do that. You can definitely, I play a lot on Treebeard, so I don't think I'm going to pay for another VIP account for that. But you can. But if you don't need, if you're confident that you're seeing quest chat or say chat or whatever, and you just need to pass on whatever that is to the function that processes it, then you can definitely get away with just having a text box, and when you click the button, it sends it to that function. So you do have to assume that your ability to receive text is correct. But once it's in the pipeline, it acts as if you saw it through the correct chat channel. And so I think it's a reasonable compromise so that, yeah, I'm not seeing it as if, I'm not actually seeing it in the chat window, but it's as if I had. And so I think it's a fine compromise. But yeah, if you're on a server where you can easily have other characters do the thing and possibly even be named correctly, that's fun too. Okay. I think that will just about do it for today, unless there was any last minute items flowing on into chat here. Okay, well, this has been a really successful day. I really wanted to get that backgrounding checkbox working, and the auto pop-up box was already working, but I wanted to get it to where we could save and load those settings correctly. And we did, and we only went over by like half an hour or something. I don't know. Neat. All right, I'm not seeing anything else on my checklist. I'm not seeing anything else coming in into chat. If there is anything else, bring it on back next week, and we'll talk about it. And with that, that's all we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you again here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.